We're doing a lot of doing a lot of songs about Edith Piaf, and also songs that she sang. So there's quite an emphasis on Edith Piaf.
So we've written a series of songs about Edith Piaf's life and, you know, the struggles she had and the different things that happened to her. And we're also playing some of her songs that are identified with her, that we kind of thought fit our, you know, the world that we live in as well.
The hits, yeah. So, you know, like Shine Another Glass and No Regrets and La Vie en Rose. The hits, you know, the sort of top five classics, the really classic ones.
I think it's quite English. It's got a sort of a dark sort of sense of humour that I think is particularly English. A self-mocking kind of term, you know, about you know, trying to undermine authority. I think that's a very English kind of quality. We're sort of Dickensian in a way, talking about social ideas. You know, sort of almost like reporting, like you know, like newspapers do, talking about social ills and, you know, and the terror of, you know, there's a kind of Victorian kind of thread that runs through the way Martin tells the stories. I think it's a kind of a narrative that is very kind of literature based, really.
Yeah. Oscar Wilde, you know,
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde,
and there's the English,
there, you know,
English music hall, which was used to be quite lots of innuendo. So they would like imply lots of sort of dirty things, but in a kind of funny way.
I don't really know. You know, any theories?
I don't really have. I mean, I think, you know, just England had a lot of crime. There's a lot of people coming in and out of England.
Poverty.
There's lots of poverty, lots of crime, lots of rich people, lots of poor people. I think if you kind of put all those things together, you kind of end up getting stories. And I think the English are pretty good at writing sort of narrative stories. They're not as poetic maybe as the French or the Italians, so they kind of tend to, they're sort of more, they tend to want to write a kind of a narrative. And I think somehow that seems to work well in English. You know, it's like those English people seem to like stories of crime and you know, terror and horror. Agatha Christie, all those sort of things. Yeah, they just seem to work well. You know, you come from that tradition. You know, you don't know why it starts. It just seems to exist in the culture.
There's a good poem called "O Come Friendly Germans and Drop Your Bombs on Slough." It was written in the war by the poet laureate called John Betjeman, and he was very keen that the Germans bombed Slough. I agree with him. You know, it would have probably been the best thing they could have done, really. You know, it's pretty horrible place. And then it goes on to mention Maidenhead, which is another town. You ever read it?
I have read it, yeah.
It mentions Maidenhead. And actually, after I lived in Slough, I moved to Maidenhead, just like in the poem. So this poem by John Betjeman actually rather describes my life. Right. Good poem. I think I listened to. I don't think I've been influenced. Oh, actually, maybe I have actually. Yeah, I think so actually. Now I come to think of it, you know, I still listen to some world music, you know, and sort of listen to things like the Bona Vista Social Club or what's that? You know, she's dead as well. They're all dead as well, aren't they? Ah, fuck, they're all dead. Everyone I like's dead. I think David Bowie should have done his penultimate album. I think he should have done it with us. It'd been much better than the one he did. It wasn't very good. I think it would have been doing him a favour, because his album wasn't very good. I mean, not the last one. You were a big fan of the last one.
I like the last one.
But
good.
The one before that,
it's shocking.
It was shocking. It wasn't good at all. So we would have done him a favour. You know, we could have given him something new. You know, something new to do. Yeah, I think a lot of. I think most contemporary artists would probably be. Should actually make an album with the Tiger Lillies, really. I think it'd do them a lot of good, actually. Beyonce, you know. I think we could give her a shot in the arm, don't you?
Certainly could. Yeah, I think so. Rihanna. Coldplay, they're desperate.
Nah, they're desperate. They need a new sound, you see. This is it.
They need some songs.
I think, you know, Coldplay, if you've got a couple of million... I'm talking to you now, Coldplay. You got a couple of million, we'll give you a new direction. Of course, it'll be a disaster. You know, that's what happened with Schnur. He was a big pop star in Russia, and then he made that album with us, and it was a disaster. It was a
commercial suicide.
He committed commercial suicide.
So if you're a big pop star and you want to commit commercial suicide, it's also, you know, there's an opportunity here for you.
We're not really directly political, you know. We're not really that. So we don't. I'm not like Billy Bragg. I don't know. You wouldn't know who Billy Bragg is, but we're not. We're not very. We don't sort of sing songs directly in a political way, you know. But we're certainly. I would say. Quite left wing.
I'd say the songs are political because they're talking about subjects that, you know, people don't necessarily want to engage with. So we deal a lot with, you know, madness, homelessness, prostitution, drugs, you know, general kind of social ills that most people, when they go out for a night of entertainment, don't necessarily want to engage with. And we usually engage with them. Even tonight, we're doing, you know, this thing about Edith Piaf. I mean, these songs are all relevant because these things are still happening in present society. So we're not specifically dealing with a specific event happening in politics at this specific time, but we're dealing with general problems that continue to exist and, you know, will always no one ever seems to have adequate solutions for. So we tend to try and present them in front of people, you know, in songs and theatre.
Oh yeah. I'm almost a drag artist in some respects because all my heroes are women. So, you know, like Edith Piaf is you know, a big hero of mine, and all the people vocally that inspired me are women. So Billie Holiday is a big hero of mine, you know, and I've listened to her singing, you know, and copied her vocal style, you know. So I'd say that I'm almost like vocally, I'm almost like a female impersonator. Well, we had two drummers before, but one was only with us for about, how long was he with us for? About a year? Was it a year and a half? 2 years?
3 years.
3 years?
I think so.
3 years, wow. Yeah.
No, Mr. Huge unfortunately had to retire as he wasn't able to continue touring. It's very hard to keep touring, and we tour a lot. So he just became too difficult for him to be on the road anymore. So he's sort of he stopped, and now he lives by the seaside.
Yeah, he's got a tree.
Up a tree in a tree house.
He's in a tree house. Yeah, Jonas Golland, but he just pointed out that I mispronounced his name. I've been doing that for the last year. Yeah, he's a young man. The beginning of his life.
As we're near the ends of ours.
And yeah, so he's doing fine. He's doing good. He's got his own style, and he's you know, he's quite theatrical, and you know, he's doing. I think he's doing very well. I write them, and then I tend to practice, and then I practice them, because what we find is that if I don't practice them and get them quite developed, then I'm wasting Adrian's time, really. I've got to actually, you know, so I practice them quite a bit before, usually, and then I bring them. And we used to do it. In fact, there was a time when I'd actually practice them and write them, practice them, and then I'd just turn up at the show and do it. And Adrian, the other Adrian, that was the drummer, they had never heard them before, but we've moved on from that now.
Yeah, I mean, now once Martin's kind of written the song and got an arrangement, we start playing it, and then the arrangement usually develops over playing. Like the songs we've been playing now, we've been changing the arrangements a bit, trying to make them, you know, stronger, tighter. So you know, I come up with my parts and try and fit them around the vocals and the melodies, and it becomes more. The more we play the songs, the more kind of clear it becomes what we need to do with them as far as dynamics and arrangements. But we can still be quite flexible with them. We can still stretch things out and contract things or speed things up, or you know, we have to play them in front of an audience. The thing is that I think that makes us different from most bands is that the songs kind of more, they're not rehearsed and then we just presented to an audience. We kind of have a loose kind of structure, and then the more we play them in front of actual people, the more they kind of develop to suit to work with an audience. If we had a column in a national newspaper, what would it be about? I don't think we'd probably be the best people to have a column in a national newspaper. We tend to like to do everything through the songs rather than, you know, as you can tell from this interview, like, verbally expressing things isn't necessarily the most elegant way that we've got of getting across our messages. Maybe you could have an agony art column, Martin. Maybe one of those columns where people write in about their sexual problems.
Yeah, sexual problems. That's a good idea. I'd like that.
My boyfriend wants to fuck me up the arse, but I don't want him to. What should I do?
Use Vaseline.
That doesn't stop him fucking me up the arse.
Sew it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Get your arse stitched.
Okay, so that's it. Yeah, we've worked that out now. It would be a personal advice column. Yeah, Martin writing a personal advice column for a national newspaper. That would be a nightmare. Our vision of hell. I don't know what our vision of hell is really. Probably our vision of hell would probably be this. Probably playing in the band for all eternity. Or other people watching, or watching other people play Tiger Lillies songs for all eternity.
Tribute bands.
Tribute bands, one after another, endlessly bad, endlessly awful, playing the same songs over and over again, while we have to sit there.
And we have to drink baby sham. Constantly getting drunk on baby sham while watching Tiger Lillies tribute bands. With Simon Cowell. Or he'd be there, wouldn't he? Because
he could be like Nick Treadwell, be like the support act. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
Anyway.
We faced many forms of hostility over the years, physical, verbal, political, religious. Yeah, religious. We've had a few people in Australia campaigning to ban us before we even get there. New Zealand, Russia, we've had a few people complaining that we're Satanist, you know.
They used that. So there was a Russian journalist described Adrian as wearing the.
I collected the dresses of murdered prostitutes. Apparently, quite know where you would buy the dresses of murdered prostitutes. Unless he's assuming that I was murdering prostitutes and then collecting their dresses, which was a nasty inference.
Everywhere else over Europe, we played 200 people in Nazi clubs.
We're a skinhead band, apparently. So anyway, so we've had that sort of persecution and insult.
People are throwing things at us.
People have tried to fight us.
Yeah.
We tried to fight Martin, and I have to kind of jump in. So we have several different. Satanic folk music was one that we used to use quite a lot. That shut them up.
Yeah, satanic.
Satanic folk music. Yeah. What else there? Death Umpa. That was another phrase that we've used before. Brechtian Street Cabaret was another sort of term. Punk polka.
Punk polka.
Yeah. Or we say, if we just want to kind of be nice, just say we're like a jazz band. What were our best memories about Hungary?
I remember I had a nice memory. There was a version, a Hungarian theatre company made a version of Shock-Headed Peter a few years ago here, and they all turned up.
At one of our concerts here,
and they all dressed up in in Shock-Headed Peter costumes, and then they all came on stage at the end, didn't they?
Yeah, and we did a big version of one of the songs.
Which song it was?
Was it Snip Snip or
Snip Snip? And then we did a version of one of these songs that we did for this show, and that was nice. That was fun. That was a nice time. And what else?
I remember you exposing yourself at the Siget Festival. That was funny.
Of course, and you've got that big festival here as well, haven't you? Which we played a couple of times on the island. We played there a couple of times. We had a riot one year. We were playing in the theatre tent, and there were all these people outside.
There were so many people trying to get in, and the capacity was reached very quickly. So.
And this, I still remember some guy shouted, I've travelled 600 kilometres to see you, and I can't even get in. And you shouted back, "That's not our fault, is it?" But anyway, so there was that, and then that was another thing, wasn't it? That whole festival thing. I remember us missing a plane as well because the because the girl that was supposed to be looking after us was actually much more interested in taking drugs and going out all night. And then she turned up late. Many years ago, before the Tiger Lillies existed, I had another band called the God and the Supreme Beings. We never really made it, but one of the songs was called Hungarians in the Woodpile, and it went dum 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 dum, and we called it Hungarians in the Woodpile. It was an instrumental. I remember. I do remember the prostitutes as well. I remember that was amazing. We came here once, and there were prostitutes everywhere, like everywhere. They were on the riverbank. They were standing all the way along the riverbank, and there was about like metre and a half gap, and then all the way along, so there was a whole line of girls, about 200 of them, all standing there. And then in our hotel lobby, there were 2 or 3 girls just sitting there in front of the reception, and they were just sitting there. It was, they were like, do you remember that? Yeah. So that was quite funny. I think that was the most. I think it's all changed now, hasn't it? You don't get that anymore. I've noticed that. But at that time, there were this era. I don't know how long it's 5, 6 years ago or something, or maybe more, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. The whole of the centre was full of prostitutes, which was very unusual.